The Chrysalids is a science fiction novel aimed at young adults, penned by John Wyndham and initially published in 1955. As a prominent figure in post-World War II science fiction, Wyndham often drew inspiration from the specter of a potential nuclear catastrophe. Critically acclaimed, The Chrysalids stands out as one of Wyndham's finest literary achievements. Its compelling narrative was adapted into a BBC radio play in 1982 and a stage production in 1999. The story unfolds through the eyes of the protagonist, David Storm, who reminisces about a vivid dream depicting a city filled with towering structures, airplanes, and automobiles. Perplexed by this vision, given that he has never witnessed such a place, David's elder sister suggests that he may be dreaming about the pre-tribulation world. Intriguingly, she urges him to guard this secret, without revealing the reason behind her warning. Obliging, David keeps his dreams concealed, unaware of their significance. David shares a telepathic connection with his cousin, Rosalind, a seemingly ordinary aspect of their daily lives. They reside in Waknuk, a thriving community located near woodlands and farmland, known for its strict adherence to purity and religious devotion. In this structured society, David lives with his parents Joseph and Emily, his two sisters, and his uncle Axel. The family's home, originally constructed by David's grandfather Elias Storm, a devout man, bears warning signs denouncing mutations and advocating purity. Mutations, labeled as deviations, can manifest in animals, crops, or individuals. When humans exhibit mutations, they are deemed blasphemies and banished to the desolate fringes beyond Waknuk. These outcasts often resort to raiding Waknuk for sustenance and resources. During his encounters in Waknuk, David meets a girl named Sophie, who possesses 6 toes. Sophie's mother implores David to keep this information a secret. As David befriends Sophie, he gradually realizes that the suffering she endures is a direct result of the religious doctrines governing their community. As David's bond with Sophie deepens, he becomes increasingly unsettled by the incongruity between her ordinary nature and the label of blasphemy that society has assigned to her. Determined to challenge his worldview, he starts visiting Sophie regularly, despite her parents' cautious skepticism. Troubled by a haunting dream in which Joseph, his own father, sacrifices Sophie while indifferent onlookers remain apathetic, David realizes that Sophie's life is in grave danger. However, he knows that revealing his dream to her parents would dispel any doubts about his loyalty. Meanwhile, David's uncle Axel accidentally overhears his telepathic conversations with Rosalind. In an effort to enhance the clarity of their messages, David speaks aloud. Although Uncle Axel doesn't expose David's secret, he warns him against divulging his abilities to others or speaking out loud during telepathic communication. While David doesn't fully comprehend the rationale behind Uncle Axel's advice, he recognizes its wisdom. Consequently, he implores Rosalind and the other children with similar abilities to maintain the utmost secrecy, solidifying their bond as a unified group. Events take a dramatic turn when several leaders from the fringes, including a man who bears an uncanny resemblance to Joseph, are captured. David finds himself captivated by this man's presence, sensing a flicker of recognition between them. Later, it is revealed that the man is Joseph's banished brother, exiled to the fringes due to his elongated limbs. David continues his clandestine visits to Sophie, sharing with her the knowledge he acquires. He reveals that their community, once known as Labrador, is located 300 miles away from the sea, and that only 300 years of recorded history exist since the time of tribulation. Among the remnants of the old people, 2 books have endured, the Bible and Repentances. All other historical accounts are passed down through oral tradition, often distorted and muddled. Humanity, in its arduous climb towards redemption, believes that achieving perfection in all living beings is the path to God's favor. During a moment of respite, while wading in a stream, a boy named Alan discovers Sophie's footprint. Consumed by rage and determined to protect Sophie, David violently confronts Alan until Sophie intervenes, rendering Alan unconscious with a rock. Fearing the consequences of their actions, they seek refuge in Sophie's home. Recognizing the mounting danger, Sophie's parents decide it is imperative to flee Waknuk. Heartbroken, David pleads to accompany them, but they firmly reject his plea. After sharing an intimate moment, Sophie gives David a lock of her hair and a kiss. When David returns home, he is confronted by his enraged father, who is accompanied by an inspector. Joseph is furious that David spent time with a blasphemy, and he physically punishes him. David feels violated and overwhelmed with guilt. The following day, he receives the devastating news that Sophie and her family have been captured. Overwhelmed by despair and the desire to escape, David confides in Uncle Axel, expressing his intention to run away. However, Uncle Axel warns him that any place outside of Waknuk would likely be even more dangerous. Drawing from his experiences as a sailor, Uncle Axel shares knowledge of the south. Beyond the treacherous Badlands lie areas where only enormous plants thrive, and further beyond lies desolation. In the southern regions, diverse cultures exist, each with its own language and beliefs regarding deviations and the true image of mankind. Uncle Axel emphasizes the impossibility of determining who is right. He also warns David that his telepathic abilities, deemed a deviation, will eventually become a cause for concern. Uncle Axel's descriptions hint at a devastating nuclear catastrophe that occurred along the eastern coast of the United States. Meanwhile, Emily gives birth to David's baby sister, Petra. As is customary, the baby remains unacknowledged until she undergoes inspection. Emily's sister, Harriet, arrives with her own newborn, confessing that the child has a minor deviation. Harriet asks Emily if they can exchange babies to pass inspection, but Emily staunchly refuses. When Joseph discovers the truth, he accuses Harriet of blasphemy. Harriet, in her defense, argues that the world is cruel and that God would never condemn an innocent child. Tragically, Harriet is found dead the next day. Haunted by the fear of being killed due to his differences, David seeks solace and guidance from Uncle Axel. In their conversation, Uncle Axel presents an alternative perspective, suggesting that tribulation may not have been an act of God, but rather a consequence of the actions of the old people. He believes that humanity's true gift lies in the mind, and David's telepathic abilities may signify an evolutionary step. Uncle Axel advises David to refine and conceal his abilities for his own safety. Motivated by a sense of unity, David and the other telepaths decide to reveal their names to each other, further solidifying their bond. One of the telepaths, Michael, takes a bold step by enrolling in a school located in a different district. After Michael's return from attending school in another district, he brings back valuable information about different ways of doing things, history, and the world beyond Waknuk. The telepathic group manages to remain unnoticed for another 6 years. However, Waknuk begins to experience 2 consecutive bad seasons, which raises doubts among the community. Uncle Axel speculates that the strange winds blowing from the Badlands may be responsible for the increased number of deviant births, likely due to radiation exposure. A year later, Petra, now 6 years old, inadvertently demonstrates her telepathic abilities when she sends out a distress call as she is drowning. David and Rosalind quickly respond to her call for help. Suspicion arises when someone notices how David and Rosalind knew where to find Petra, but they are able to provide a plausible explanation. However, this incident raises concerns and increases scrutiny. Amidst the growing tension, one of the telepaths, and decides to marry Alan despite the protests of the others, who fear for their safety. Several months later, Alan is found dead, and it is later revealed that Uncle Axel had shot him to protect David. Devastated by the news, and takes her own life, leaving behind a note that exposes the existence of all the telepaths. However, her sister Rachel discovers the note, intensifying the anxiety and uncertainty among the group. David and Rosalind, who have secretly fallen in love and begun an affair, face additional challenges as they must conceal their relationship from their feuding families. During a particularly successful crop season, Petra once again reaches out telepathically in distress, this time alerting everyone in the group. They unintentionally gather around Petra, and their actions are witnessed by a man who becomes suspicious of how they knew where to find her. Realizing the danger they are in, David decides to teach Petra how to harness and control her telepathic abilities. With guidance, she quickly learns to manipulate her thought shapes, although they remain incredibly powerful. On the same night, David awakens to the devastating news that Sally and Catherine have been captured. Determined to protect Petra, David and Petra hastily leave, meeting up with Rosalind in the woods. However, Michael, who is part of the search party, attempts to mislead them. As the search intensifies, Catherine is subjected to torture until she reveals everything about David, Petra, and Rosalind. In the midst of the chaos, Petra establishes a telepathic connection with someone living in Sealand, describing a city reminiscent of the one in David's dreams. Upon discovering that his dream is a real and current place called Sealand, David is astounded. In Sealand, the inhabitants possess the ability to use thought pictures and live in a state of unity that normal people could never comprehend. However, David and his companions become the target of pursuit and are forced to retreat into the woods. They are soon intercepted by a group of fringe people who take them to their encampment, where they encounter Gordon, Joseph's brother and the leader of the fringes. During their time in the encampment, David learns about the fringe people's perspective on the inhabitants of Waknuk. According to them, the people of Waknuk are the true sinners because of their resistance to change. In a haunting parallel to the Waknuk doctrine, the Sealand woman, who speaks telepathically, asserts the superiority of her race and condemns the old people as only half-human beings who should not be emulated. Within the encampment, Gordon takes a particular interest in Rosalind. As a result, David is banished but soon finds solace when he reunites with Sophie. She leads him back to her cave within the encampment, appearing worn and confessing her love for Gordon. Sophie offers to eliminate the guard watching over Rosalind and Petra, eventually bringing them to her cave. Together, they await the arrival of the Sealand woman. As Michael's group approaches the encampment, a fierce battle erupts, marked by a barrage of arrows and gunshots. David witnesses the tragic deaths of his father, Gordon, and Sophie, while a large flying machine descends, releasing sticky webs that suffocate the combatants. The webs also envelop Michael and those in Sophie's cave, but the Sealand woman instructs them not to struggle. She arrives dressed in a white suit and sprays them with a mist that dissolves the adhesive, resulting in a moment of pure joy as she embraces Petra. After realizing that everyone on the battlefield has perished, David and Rosalind come to understand that the Sealand woman believes it is necessary to eliminate those who resist change in order to preserve the superiority of their race. Michael decides to stay behind and find his own path to Sealand with Rachel, while the others board the flying machine and depart. They soon approach the city, and it appears exactly as David had dreamed. Filled with anticipation, David and Petra experience a surge of hope. Petra's excitement becomes contagious, overwhelming everyone, as they hear the resonating hum of a city where minds unite in collective thought. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.